More Blockbusters just closed. You're officially the last one on Earth.
I don't love the pattern that's starting to emerge. Hello?
Come on. I'm the last man standing.
How am I supposed to be the next Tarantino if I don't work in a video store?
Yeah, that's what's holding you back.
No one's going anywhere because everything is under control.
That's reassuring.
Just act like one of your favorite bosses from a movie.
Like Boss Baby or Devil's Advocate?
One of those is a baby and one is Satan.
And look at the heights they reach despite their circumstances.
Fair.
Continue this focus. I think we're gonna be okay.
An eviction notice?
I felt real bad about it. That's why I drew a sad face on it.
No one takes me seriously. I've been working here since the 7th grade.
That is not the flex you think it is.
I've always thought of myself as over 40 at heart. I don't get why you're getting a degree in accounting. All you do is talk about making movies.
Accounting is basically like the film of numbers. See? That was the saddest thing I've ever said.
Saddest thing I've ever said is one ticket for Space Jam 2. Sorry if I have.
And we are listening to the trailer of Blockbuster, the series currently streaming on Netflix. If you'd like to see and hear my full commentary, Nerdy Girl Reviews, keep me locked here on YouTube. If you're watching this on Instagram, click the link in bio. If you're watching this on IG Stories, click on the link. It'll link you back to my YouTube channel. I'm also available on TikTok under Nerdy Girl Reviews. Now let's get into this 10-episode series for its first season on Netflix. And we will be right back. Now, before we get into the review, are y'all liking the aesthetics? Now, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead. I know I said that we would like to celebrate our holidays like we're supposed to, right? We had Halloween, which, again, my background is in transition, so don't judge. We have Thanksgiving coming up, so we're still very much in fall colors. And this is a little hint of Christmas, yes. Even though I'm still keeping my cauldron and my wickedly fun tree. Hope you guys can see. Again, I love my props. I'm going to show off my props. But since we kind of fall into holidays with this series, I thought I'd kind of put this hodgepodge all together. And as you can see, I was a very loyal Blockbuster fan. I was a member. I can't find my membership card anymore. God only knows where that went. But I will make a point that I did review on this channel, my channel, the Blockbuster board game. This came out, I don't know what year it came out, but it sells out really quickly. I bought this at Target. You can find it, I think, even at Five and Below in their game section. But it has all these really fun trivia of great films and classic films, and you don't have to be a scholar to figure it out. And here's the board game. It's reminiscent of the VHS tape, as you can see. How cute is that? And it says, "Be kind, please rewind." Traditional VHS tape before they transitioned into DVD format and Blu-ray and all that jazz. But it's so cute because it's very reminiscent of a little parking lot. I have a little name tag, but this is actually part of the board game. But I thought this would be so cute because I already have the stuff. And tell me that this doesn't look like the traditional tape that you would rent from Blockbuster. Which, again, not for nothing, the irony here that this show would fall into the streaming verse of what is Netflix, which Netflix is what took down Blockbuster. They are non-existent because of streaming services, and the big one to pop off the whole streaming game was Netflix. So the irony here. But as I'm doing my research, I'm finding that the show wasn't necessarily intended for Netflix. It was intended for NBC. And it didn't. Universal, I think, didn't go for it. So it ended up finding a home at Netflix. So the biggest irony there. But nonetheless, I hope you're liking the background and my love for all these DVDs. And not for nothing, this is where I Again, I've mentioned this on my Instagram and even on YouTube how much of a movie lover I have always been. And yeah, I was able to discover all these great films. Foreign films too were available at Blockbuster. Things that you wouldn't necessarily even find on a streaming service. For the longest, I couldn't find a particular Mexican films called Nicotina, and I recommend you watch it. Diego Luna's in it. I couldn't find that. I couldn't find that on no streaming services. So it just goes to show that Blockbuster had its advantages sometimes. And I was able to discover my love for Entourage, Sex and the City, a number of other films and stuff. So also I wanted to show that I'm proud that I own this, but The Players Club, which I did like the film. Not for nothing. It was the predecessor, I think, to even like P-Valley. Because if we didn't have this, we wouldn't have P-Valley. Although P-Valley is its own thing. And I will link all these videos, even my game review, my unboxing of the board game, in the description box or somewhere here in the video. And even this, like, I reviewed P-Valley and I loved P-Valley, but I want to say a lot of these films were like the predecessor to what these films would be. So just to show y'all, look at that, it still has its sticker. It still has a sticker. Just to remind, please rewind, thanks, the end. Isn't that cute? I mean, you can't get that. Like, I mean, okay, yes, all right. Everything is relatively more comfortable and easier now. Yes, we do know that. But it's just, and I almost feel like this generation will never know. We'll never know the agony and also that time constraint. If you didn't watch it by a certain time, you know, you had to give it back, you know, or there were late fees or whatever the case may be. Y'all, Gen Z will never know. Millennials. I don't even think millennials will know the true struggle. The struggle was real, y'all. But it was like, I don't know, it just felt for me, like I always say that famous line from, oh my God, hold on a sec. That classic film, Some Kind of Wonderful, with Eric Stoltz, which I was a big fan of as well. I was a fan of him. Oh, he was beautiful. And I think he's still beautiful to this day. But nonetheless, there's a scene in that film where he says, you know, it was more of his like painting, and they were like in this beautiful museum, and he says, "This is my church." This was my church, y'all. Like, I'm that movie nerd. So please don't get it twisted. Regardless of what you see here, I am that movie nerd. Even if I mispronounce certain things, I may not know everything. But don't tell me. Don't tell me. And again, I have my little cauldron with my little movie popcorn as we review this series. And I know I've gone on a tangent, but nonetheless. Now, I'm a big fan of the cast. I did appreciate familiar names that we already know that made this show pop. We have Randall Park, who plays Timmy Yoon, the manager of the last operating Blockbuster video store, which I don't think, honestly, the premise, they were onto something when it came to that premise. Like, oh my God, the last. Like, how do you make that one last in the world? The whole planet. There's just this one last remaining Blockbuster. The premise was phenomenal. Then we have Melissa Fumero, who plays Eliza Walker, which, not for nothing. No shade. I'm not criticizing any people with the name Eliza. All right, we have Liza Minnelli, but that's I think that's spelled differently. Nonetheless, I don't know. It's just too Hamilton kind of vibes, and I don't want to be thrown into. I really feel like the story and the premise really does feel more like a stage play than necessarily like made for TV. I think this would have maybe even worked better on the stage, maybe for Broadway or whatnot. But I don't know about, like, you know, binging. 10 episodes. They're like 30 minutes a pop. We have also, speaking of Broadway, we have Olga Menendez. Am I saying this correct? Meredith. Olga Meredith. Now, yes, Meredith. If she sounds familiar, she played Abuela Claudia in the Broadway hit In the Heights, and she was in the movie as well, which is also on HBO Max, not Netflix, but HBO Max, or maybe Netflix too. And she's done a number of Broadway productions and films, and she's been working. She's been in the game for quite some time now. So beautiful voice and really knows her comedic beats. I love it. You know, she was a great addition. She was like of the older crowd. She was the, you know, of that kooky sense, like kooky lady that you have in the background. Then we have Tyler Alvarez, who plays Carlos Herrera, young employee. He's our non-binary character, Latino. Also pansexual and bisexual, because there's instances of that in the show. It's not overly sexualized. This is still a rather friendly watch, family friendly watch, but he's that character. And he's aspiring Quentin Tarantino. Everybody feels like if you're in a video store, your chances of being the next Quentin Tarantino is large. Or at least anybody who's loyal to video renting, because now, again, it's not a reality anymore for a majority of us. And Melandina Arthur as Hannah Handman, a young employee of the store who is also Carlos's friend, which, not for nothing, she gave me a lot of vibes like, as she was like our Amanda Seyfried, who played Karen Smith in Mean Girls, you know, the one that was kind of like, duh. She's very frugal. She can't seem to compute and connect the dots too easily or too quickly, but she's kind-hearted and whatnot, and comes from, like, you know, her family's been in the down and outs and the dumps, and this is just a job to help maintain her and her family. Recurring characters, J.B. Smoove, who plays Percy Scott. He's the owner in this like strip mall that's adjacent to the Blockbuster. He's the Party City. They don't say it's Party City, but it's pretty apparent. It looks like very much like Party City. He's the owner of that. Has been friends with our main protagonist of Randall Park, of Timmy, since they were, like, I think in grade school, and so they've kept, you know, friends in close contact. Camilla Fairbaum, I don't know, as Kyla Scott, Percy's daughter. She's up and coming. I haven't seen her in another, you know, again, she may have been working, but I don't know all her filmography. And she plays the daughter of Percy. A little on the, you know, cocky side, and I will say a lot of other reviewers, again, you have to take fiction for what it is, because sometimes it's not going to be necessarily true to real life. But I will say that I don't necessarily I agree with another reviewer that mentioned that she, of all the employees, has a crop top version of this uniform, which is this navy blue shirt and, you know, khaki pants. You know, of course you have to be aesthetically pleasing in the sense, like, groomed and whatnot. And she was, but she had this crop top, and I was like, most of these jobs, even to this day, fast food does not allow for people to be showing that they're midriff. So that I will agree, but again, it's a fictional show, so can we really hold them to that, you know? Like, it has to be accurate. It's fiction, you know? So can we really criticize? Leonard Robinson as Aaron Walker, Liza's husband. I think he's been on SNL, right? And Keegan Connor Tracy as Renee, a potential love interest of Timmy. Yes, that was but yeah, so it's quirky. It's in the same family of The Office. I feel like that was it. That was like the recipe that became really successful, and then everybody just kind of branched out and they're having their own version of it, right? Like, you know, Parks and Recreation, all of other Office kind of comedies, because up until that point it was still very kind of dramatic. Like, Ally McBeal, you can't say is nowhere near like The Office. So once The Office and the UK version took off, and then they brought it to the United States, forget it. It's like nearly every show kind of mimics it. In fact, In fact, the show's creator, Vanessa Ramos, she's written and has been a showrunner for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Blockbuster, which is her baby, and Superstore, Border Town. These are all, in the same scheme, same family of office, haha, humor, and bringing that awkward storytelling to the masses. So, she's had great, success with NBC because, for heaven's sake, Superstore has been very successful with America Ferrera and whatnot. So, again, we're familiar with the laughs, and we kind of already know what we're kind of getting into. The only thing I will say is that this is 10 episodes, and it did kind of drag a little bit. They get into insane little situations and mini fires that they have to kind of put out. We even see maybe a purpose to maybe even keeping a rental store or something like that, because I don't know if they were trying to hint or do a nod to what happened recently with COVID. They don't say specifically COVID, but the fact that there's still that looming scare since the Y2K era, that everything can literally just kind of go, in a blink of an eye, everything will shut down. Life will cease to exist. We won't have Instagram or streaming services, that people will storm and run and gravitate to a local video rental, DVD rental, VHS rental place, just so that they have some bit of a form of entertainment. Because Lord knows, through the whole pandemic, a lot of us were going insane and maybe even researching films that we haven't watched in over a decade. So that I did like, but that wasn't until almost the last episode. I believe it's called Shitstorm. That one I did genuinely like. And then the possibility also, again, with all these office job comedies, there's always the two that, will they, won't they, that's what happens between Timmy and Eliza. The name just kind of I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me, sorry. And yeah, they've known each other since grammar school, but she got married and thought that she would live happily ever after, but her husband cheated with a much younger woman, and then to sustain